members, the question is that the bill for an act to appropriate certain sums of money for the use of the public service of Belize for the financial year ending March 31, 2023 be read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
The bill for an act to appropriate certain sums of money for the use of the public service of Belize for the financial year ending March 31st, 2023.
I recognize the leader of government business.
Madam President, I rise to move the second reading of a bill for an act to amend the Village Councils Act, Chapter 88 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to provide for a procedure for the resignation of an elected member of a council, to allow for the deputy chairperson to assume the powers and duties of the chairperson during his absence from office, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam President, this is a very straightforward piece of legislation. I suspect that it is uncontroversial, and as we approach village council elections in the next few months, there was some cleaning up that was proposed. One of the regular things which I'm sure senators on the other side have had to deal with is when a chairman of the village council steps down or is no longer performing or can't perform his duty. The law doesn't deal with it at all. And this is an attempt to deal with that, to allow for a specific process of resignation and to allow for the deputy chairman to take up the powers in certain circumstances. Madam President, I ask that the question be put.
Honorable members, the question is that the bill for an act to amend the Village Councils Act, Chapter 88 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to provide for a procedure for the resignation of an elected member of a council, to allow for the deputy chairperson to assume the powers and duties of the chairperson during his absence from office, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto, be read a second time. All those in favor kindly say aye. Those against kindly say no. I think the ayes have it.
The bill for an act to amend the Village Council Act, Chapter 88 of the Substantive Laws of Belize, Revised Edition 2020, to provide for a procedure for the resignation of an elected member of a council, to allow for the deputy chairperson to assume the powers and duty of the chairperson during his absence from office, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto.
I recognize the leader of government business.
Madam President, I rise to move a second reading of a bill for an act to provide for the control and licensing of cannabis and industrial hemp, and to provide for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. Madam President, let me start by saying to the Honorable Senate that based on discussions that I have had with senators, the social sectors, we intend to present, debate, and hopefully pass this bill today, but not bring it into force for at least a month, to allow for further discussions and consultations on the bill. And in the event that we agree any amendments, we will bring back those for amendment, but we will proceed with the debate and passage, hopefully, of the bill. So it will not be brought into force until those discussions are concluded. Having said that, Madam President, it is important for us on this side of the House to remind the Honorable Senate and the Belizean people that this matter has been in the House of Representatives from October of last year. It was intended by way of an amendment to the Misuse of Drugs Act to provide a legal regime for cannabis and industrial hemp. That bill, as drafted, was severely criticized by primarily senators from the social sector, and the government held the bill in abeyance. Generally speaking, there were three principal criticisms of the bill. The first was that we should have a standalone bill if we are establishing a new industry, and not just an amendment to the Misuse of Drugs Act. Secondly, the composition of the commission was not set out in the original draft, and the criticism was that the bill should set out specifically who the members of the commission would be. And thirdly, senators will recall that the bill included a clause that gave to the minister responsible for this industry the power to remove members of the commission in his own discretion. And senators criticized that discretion being given to the minister. Madam President, after discussion and consultation, all of those concerns have been taken on board, as well as additional concerns that have been raised. I will quickly take a gander through the bill just to highlight some of the provisions. Clause 3 of the bill now sets out in Clause 3.2, Madam President, all the members of the Commission, and the functions are set out in 3.4. It is set out very clearly that the members of the Commission will hold office for a period of 1 year and shall be eligible for reappointment, and there is no discretion or power given to the minister to remove members. Clause 5 is an important provision. Every person who desires to possess cannabis for personal use shall apply to the Commission for a Cannabis Program Identification Card. Right now, cannabis can be kept for personal use. There's no law requiring an identification card, and the intention here is to regulate even possession of cannabis for personal use. Clause 5.2, an application for a cannabis ID card, the person must be at least 21 years of age. That is to ensure that there are, as best as possible, when it's regulated, it doesn't get in the hands of children. Obviously, it's no guarantee, but it is an attempt by the law to say that it is 21 years and older who will be lawfully allowed to possess cannabis. And it sets out, Madam President, the other prescribed documents that must be presented and the fee for that ID card. Similarly, Madam President, Clause 6 sets out that for the commercial growing of cannabis plants, an application has to be made to the Commission for a license. What is important, Madam President and members of the Senate, is Clause 3, which sets out that the Commission shall grant a license if the applicant is 21 years and older. At least 30% of the shareholders are the citizens of Belize. So it is important that there be Belizean participation in this new growth industry. It goes on to provide, Madam President, that the applicant, to the satisfaction of the Commission, provides information required in subsection 2, which sets out all the things that must be set out, and after conducting a background and Interpol check, the applicant and all interested parties do not have a criminal record. So, Madam President, it is ensuring, hopefully, that only fit and proper persons can be involved in this industry. Subclause 4, a person issued a cultivation license shall be allowed to purchase cannabis only from the central nursery. The intention there, Madam President, is that there will be a central nursery that will be propagating these cannabis plants and seeds for purchase, and so that they will be controlled and regulated. There's a social equity license that allows persons to get permission and a license from the Commission if they are going to grow cannabis of 4,000 square feet or less. And again, the conditions are settled for the grant of such a license and for the persons who would qualify for such a license. Subclause 8, every person who desires to store, market, and otherwise sell cannabis shall apply in writing to the Commission for a dispensary license. That requires a detailed business plan and it sets out in full all the criteria that must be complied with. There are 9 criteria that must be complied with as a part of the business plan to be put before the Commission. There is, of course, Madam President, the delivery license. Every person who desires to deliver cannabis for any license holder under this act shall apply in writing to the Commission for a delivery license. So if you have a license holder who is growing cannabis and you want to deliver cannabis for them, say to somewhere where there is smoking or to an individual, you have to apply for a delivery license. Again, set out in extenso, Madam President, is a business plan, and all the details are set out for a person who wishes to apply for a delivery license. Again, one must satisfy a background, and Interpol have a business plan, must be Belizean involvement in the business. A processing license, every person who desires to process cannabis for cannabis edibles, cannabis extracts, cannabis oils, or any other prescribed purpose shall apply in writing to the Commission for a processing license. And again, it is set out the details that need to be complied with. Clause 11, every holder of a restaurant license who desires to sell cannabis and infuse cannabis food and drinks for consumption in a consumption lounge shall apply in writing for a restaurant consumption lounge license. Madam President, again, the details are set out in extenso for that license. The final point I wanted to bring to the attention of the Honorable Senate is clause 15, which provides that the Commissioner shall impose as a condition of every license issued under this part that the licensed activity shall not take place within a mile of an educational institution or a residential area. That was introduced after consultation, Madam President, seeking to try to keep this type of activity away from persons under 21. Clause 22, in addition to any other tax that may be levied under any other law, there shall be levied a tax of 10% on the sale of cannabis and cannabis products from the central nursery, and every person issued a cultivation license, delivery license, a dispensary license, or processing license. This is important. The tax levied under subsection 1 shall be payable into the Consolidated Revenue Fund and allocated through an Appropriation Act to the ministry responsible for finance to be used as follows. And so it sets out, Madam President, that the revenue from this industry goes into the fund, but then the monies are indexed. 10% of the tax levied shall be used for the payment of tuition, school fees, and scholarship for marginalized students. 10% of the tax levied shall be for the use of the Commission to fund public education campaigns on the use of cannabis, rehabilitation programs for drug users, and other social and sporting programs approved by the Commission. And 5% of the tax levied shall be used to fund the expenses of the central nursery and for the administration of the Act. Madam President, this bill and this issue of cannabis and industrial hemp is a controversial issue in our society. The government of Belize is in full support of the development of this industry under strict regulatory measures. We fully respect those who have strong differences on the issue, but around the world, we can see that there is a movement certainly inclined in favor of this type of industry. Some say Belize is too far behind the curve, but this is an attempt, Madam President, to expand the industries and sectors for employment in our country.
I recognize Senator Bishop Alvin Bengaja.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I will make my contribution as the senator representing the church. Both the Belize Council of Churches and the evangelicals. Madam President, and if you will allow me to refer to my notes from time to time. Madam President, I once read a book, An Appeal to Reason. Can't remember who the author is. But in that book, it brought out the whole understanding as to why things are done, and perhaps, as is suggested by the subject of the book itself, the reasoning behind it. I say that to say, why are we here today? Is the question that I ask. Why are we here today? From what I have gleaned from those who have been a part of this for perhaps some 5 to 6 years now, I glean that the past administration, in dialogue with the church, had moved to appropriate the law to decriminalize in small amounts marijuana, and to release from prison young males especially, and especially black young men, unemployed young men, and to a large extent, little educated young men. That is how I gather the first part was structured. And we're here now, where the government is asking that it be allowed to be the chief grower, to actually be the industrial hub for cannabis and hemp control in Belize. That is essentially where we are now. Madam President, I was going to ask initially for a division of vote, but I decided that perhaps it wasn't prudent. But even at this stage, I can appeal to reason insofar as we are concerned. The government, Madam President, is asking the entire Senate at this time, when we are in the holy season of Lent, and we will soon be celebrating Holy Week, to not only debate this bill, but actually to pass this bill. I want to directly affect this bill or address this bill. And